Hello again, Bobby here. Mulholland Drivethru is the channel. Today I'm going to review Cat Power's new album called Wanderer. I've been listening to this the last few days. Picked it up on the weekend. I think it came out on Friday. Um, yeah, fell in love with it straight away. Love it. It's her first album, Shane Marshall's first album in 6 years, I think. The last album being Sun was 2012. Um, Interestingly, there was also a 6 year gap between Sun and her previous album of originals, The Greatest, which I also really enjoyed. Probably my favourite of hers, actually. That was a very different album for her, featuring sort of R&B, soul-infused arrangements, where she used, I think they were called the Memphis Rhythm Band. If you haven't heard The Greatest, check out The Greatest. And I think between The Greatest and Sun, there was a covers album, Jukebox, which I enjoyed, but again, they weren't her songs. Sun, the previous record, was a very interesting album for her. It sort of featured electronic manipulation, production fairly prominently. It still felt like a singer-songwriter album, but I guess she was experimenting with a different kind of production side. And this one, Wanderer, seems to be some kind of return to her roots, to her folk roots, I should say, to her sort of bluesy folk meditational past. Her first sort of 5 or 6 albums were very much that way inclined. And so I'm just going to quickly talk you through the songs on the album and end up at some kind of verdict and, an overall impression of the album. It starts with a song called Wanderer, the title track, which is very short. It only goes for, I think, under 2 minutes. It's a traditional kind of folk melody. It's got very sparse sort of gospel choir backing vocals, which I think she does herself. It sets up the sort of folky, bluesy feel of the album. I mean, it's not really bluesy, it's more sort of folk rootsy. The lyrics of the song seem to be about an ex. There's some kind of there's a hint of yearning or nostalgia or what if about the lyrics. It feels like a bit of a sliding doors moment. I think one of the lines is a twist of fate would have me sing at your wedding, suggesting some kind of potential awkwardness or something's happened with this person in the past. What could have been, those sorts of things. And it sets up this motif, I suppose, or this theme of wandering, which we'll talk about as the album goes on. Track 2 is called In Your Face, and the texture's gradually sort of building from the opening track. It's got a slightly thicker texture this time. There's like a single finger piano line, some guitar chords this time, and even like a soft a bongo, or it might even be like a tabla drum or something, playing a very sort of minimal rhythm. It's got a sort of resigned, slightly haunted feel to it. It's about losing personal psychological autonomy or independence or something. One of the lyrics is, "In the age of military, you're engaged with such fanfare activity. You let them do things as they please," suggesting something of a character who lets perhaps other people have their way with him, potentially in some kind of militaristic way or patriotic kind of way or something. Perhaps making a comment about something about American culture these days, I'm not sure. Thirdly, the third track is called You Get. The album continues to build again. There's a primitive kind of drum kit rhythm going on here, almost a kind of Ringo type beat. It's got a sort of sparse rock group format, I suppose. There's guitar, there's bass, there's some backing vocals, as well as the lead vocal, of course. Lots of repeated phrases in the lyrics. you'll get what you get, and you get what you get, and you will get what you get. That sort of stuff, sort of almost a mantra type thing. Um, yeah, it's sort of a meditation, I guess. It feels like it's dealing with the sort of arbitrariness of life. Whatever happens to you just happens to you. Yeah, that sort of thing. A really cool track. I really like that track. The next song is called Woman, and it's a Lana Del Rey duet. Lana makes an appearance on her album. They sound gorgeous together. They harmonise really nicely. Some really tasteful sounding, I think it's a Rhodes piano or some kind of, retro electric piano instrument. It sounds a bit like a Rhodes. Some stabby electric guitar chords, some, again, sort of Ringo-ish primitive drumming. And it's a song about identity, I think. It's a song about the way a man views a woman, or a hypothetical man views a woman, versus how the woman sees herself. I think one of the giveaway lines in this song is, "Your money's like a weapon, a tool to get me." And a bit later she says, "My money's like a weapon, a tool for me." So something about the economic relationship maybe between males and females these days, or men and women, and the way that money is used by both genders in their various ways. It's an interesting observation. Really like this track as well. I think it works really well with Lana. The next song is Horizon, and really from this point on, this is track 5, and from track 5 onwards, the album is a very downbeat affair. It doesn't really go back up, so the rest of the album kind of stays pretty down. Horizon is a piano-driven kind of meditation again. It seems to be about the impermanence of geographical closeness with people. On the surface, she talks about family members like mother and father and brother and sister, but that could perhaps sort of metaphorically be about anyone, just the fact that, people are always coming and going. And again, that sort of taps into the theme of The Wanderer, the album's title, the impermanence of these sorts of relationships perhaps in her life. The next track is Stay, and I think I'm right in saying this is the Rihanna track. It's a cover of a Rihanna song, which I didn't know the original, I hate to say. I confess that I don't really listen to a lot of Rihanna. I'm pretty sure this is the Rihanna song. It's another piano-led track on this album, at least. I'm assuming this is a very different version to the original version. Even more sketchy than the previous one. Very minimalist, very kind of almost skeletal in its arrangement. Vague and cryptic lyrics suggest something is sort of coming to an end, perhaps a romantic relationship's coming to an end. The tone of her voice sounds fairly resigned about it. It's a little bit haunted in a good way. The next track is called Black. It's another skeletal sort of arrangement with guitar, vocals, some sketchy harmonies, which she does herself in the background that are kind of reverbed so that they sound sort of airy and floaty. The lyrics seem to be some kind of fable about a man described as being just like a fox, and his relationship with the narrator of the song. I haven't really got my head around the story of this song, but it sounds enigmatic, and that's sort of appealing to me. I'm not quite sure what the fable is about, but I'm going to have to listen to that a few times, which leads on to another kind of fable song called Robin Hood, perhaps about the sort of legendary character, but this time Robin is spelled with 2 B's in the middle. I'm not sure if there's a difference there or not in the character. It's got a very traditional folk melody. It's just a guitar and voice again. Really nice and sort of hypnotic, and this is the mood of the album from now on, which leads into Nothing Really Matters, which is again downbeat. It's a voice and piano song. My reading of this song is it's about the sort of impossibility of measuring the success of one's life compared to other people's lives. Like there's no objective measure of how we measure these things. The key lyric for me was, how can other people's ways be an estimate of your way of life? You know, how do we measure the success of what we do is an unanswerable question, this song seems to be saying. It's, again, got this sort of meditational mood, which, I don't know, lends itself to late at night with a glass of wine and perhaps some headphones. That's, you know, it's a sort of nighttime album, I think. Second last track is called Me Voy, which I believe is Spanish for I'm going. I don't speak Spanish, but I think it means I'm going. And again, this is a really clear reiteration of that theme of wandering. Like, you know, I'm leaving this place now, I'm going somewhere else. The lyrics are very repetitive. I'm leaving, me voy, good is gone, etc. It's guitar and voice. There's occasional piano dipping in, but there's, you know, very sparse arrangement again, which leads finally to the bookend track, the last bookend, which is called Wanderer/Exit. So the first track being Wanderer, this is also Wanderer/Exit. So it sort of brings the album full circle. It feels circular, and that sort of suits the theme of wandering. You just keep wandering, so it goes around and around. You know, this theme is really clear by this stage, and I think in that sense it's a job done well. It feels like it's a lived album. It feels like these songs come from a place of experience and even comfort. Like there seems to be some comfort in the sort of tone of Marshall's voice through the album. It's not hostile most of the time. It's not aggressive. It's not angry. It's just sort of resigned in a kind of Zen-like way to the fates. And there's some comfort in that, I think. It feels like a mature album. A lot of her early recordings sort of fought a bit more against various forces, whether that be, you know, other people or herself. This time she seems more at peace with this idea of impermanence and those sorts of things. You know, the other day I reviewed the Low album. This feels sort of similar in a how or when you would listen to it sense. It's definitely a sort of more solitary listen. It's a nighttime listen. It's not a party album. It's not a social album. It's not a dinner party album. And that's cool, you know. There seems to be some good albums like that coming out this year, and this is another one of them. So, you know, I'm not going to say it's her best album. I don't think it is her best album, but it's one that I'll definitely listen to more as the year goes on. And if we're going to attempt to score it, it feels to me like it's at least a 7.5, 8 out of 10. You know, time will tell whether that mark sticks, but for now, I'm going to say definitely recommended. You know, again, not her best, but definitely if you've not heard Cat Power before, it's a great place to start. It rings a lot of bells in terms of her early stuff, so it might even be a good introduction in that sense to her early material as well. And that's it. So thank you once again for watching. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to hear your thoughts on Wanderer. So let me know underneath if you so desire. See you next time. Bye.